Yeah, well, my argument is that in Denmark, where we didn't get the separation between church and state, we instead have a pseudo separation between church and state, which means that the churches and the ministers in the churches are paid from the taxes from the people, and you're automatically a member of the Danish church, as it is when you're born. But this has actually made a peculiar reaction to that, because nobody believes in Denmark. The churches are completely empty on Sundays. I think the only period that they're actually full is in the Christmas, and it's just for what do you call it?
Just the holiday service. Yeah. I know that's an interesting phenomenon, is that we see, but it tends to be a Western European thing, mostly, where you have these countries with official state churches, state religions, and in those countries, religion is sort of dying on the vine. Even in England, where I think not long ago, I don't think it was the Archbishop of Canterbury, but somebody certainly very high up, essentially threw up his hands and says, well, atheism is won over here. In Norway, I think, it's 10% church attendance? But it's, again, that seems to be a Western European phenomenon, and you mentioned a downside to the problem.
There are some countries that are, where there's no church-state separation, where you essentially have theocracy, and not a particularly decent one. I mean, obviously, anywhere where there's not separate church and state, where you have an official state church, you have a theocracy. The problem is that not all theocracies are created equal. But
the point is that those states are non-secular states.
I'm sorry?
Denmark is a secular state.
Right, whereas like Iran is very much a
Muslim. Now I'm kind of confused, because if there is no separation of church and state, and you have an official state religion, I don't see how you can actually be a secular state.
Because the church doesn't have any power.
How can they not have power?
They're not in the three branches of power.
I think
so you have a church that is the official church, but it has no power,
It's funded by the taxes.
And it's paid for by the taxes.
But you're saying it wields no...
land, and they have some relics and crowns.
Okay, I think that's probably a great way an effective way of getting rid of religion, because you've eliminated competition in the first place. Other churches don't have the opportunity to spring up. Yeah. However, it's also a good way of eliminating basic freedoms, and I'm not in favor of that, and I'm certainly not in favor of my tax dollars going to pay ministers of any church, even if it means getting rid of the other churches.
Yeah. Well, we have freedom of religion in Denmark, but
only one church gets taxpayer money.
Yeah.
And
Muslims are pretty upset about it.
Yeah, and I think, and it would be very bizarre to me, even to live in some sort of tolerant and ostensibly secular country, to know that the minute I was born, I was automatically enrolled as the member of such and such a state church.
Yeah,
that seems so. In a sense, but then at the same time, you say that these churches wield no political influence, even though they get tax money. And to me, that's the interesting point that you bring up, because one of the arguments that I've made, I take the rare point of view among American atheists that I've been all for tax exemption of the churches, where a lot of atheists are like, oh, tax the church, tax the church. I'm like, no, because my argument has always been, if you tax the churches over here, then with all of the political power that religion already wields in this country that is supposed to have separation of church and state, you suddenly start taking what would amount to hundreds of millions of dollars in tax money from these mega churches that we have here that are the size of stadiums. I mean, they have 30,000 people turn up every Sunday. Then it seems to me like the church can just walk right in the front door of any congressman's office that they want and say, all right, we paid X million dollars in taxes this year, therefore we demand creationism in schools. Here are the list of schools that our students attend. Here are the taxes that we pay. Here are the taxes that our congregation pays to support all this. And now we're going to make this, and this demand. But see, that to me is, and they would have now they've got enough power as it is to sort of be a real nuisance in terms of making those demands already. Just imagine if they had the strength of saying, oh, well, but look at all the taxes that we pay behind them to bolster those demands. But it would get even scarier.
But
apparently that's not happening. That's not what we see happening.
Why would it get any scarier? They're already wielding as much influence as they ever possibly could. Because nobody...
Well, I think they could wield
Nobody could
more.
walk in and say, I pay X amount of dollars and therefore you will do this. If I'm an elected official, the correct answer is no. Sorry. You don't get to do that.
Well, except no, but it's called lobbying, right? I mean, then you have
When you have that they lobby anyway.
Well, but what I'm saying is they could be more aggressive. They could just come right in and say, "Look, do this for us, or you'll be going home this time."
Or you'll what? You'll not pay the taxes that we're charging you? Tough shit. You're paying them.
Or we'll vote you out. We'll end your political career, and we'll bring in a guy who's more amenable to our demands.
Okay, but they can do that anyway, whether they're paying taxes or not.
Anyway, we're getting I'm just saying.
Just a side note to this comment about separation in church and state. It is. I should say that we have the possibility of not paying. We can just go out of or resign from the membership. So we don't have to pay the church tax. We have a church tax in Denmark. But still, some of the financial budget still contains revenues for church buildings, and it's not completely separate. I can't get away from paying for this, but I can't do it. I'm not a member of the Danish church as it is today. So
you're saying that you can decline your membership in the Danish church, and doing so, you can opt out of paying the church tax? Was that what?
Yeah, I think it's about 1.5% tax or something like that.
Huh. But even after you opt out of paying for the church tax, some of your taxes still goes to the church.
Still end up trickling through.
Yeah, because the church is on the finance law in Denmark.
Okay.
So that's a hell of a scam they pulled off.
Yeah, that's actually kind of...
That's what it is. That's a heck of a scam that this church has pulled off.
Also, we have a secretary of the churches in Denmark.
A secretary.
In fact, the funny thing is, it's called a minister.
I'm sorry?
It's called a minister.
Okay.
Like your Secretary of State, that would be our Minister of State in Denmark.
And yet...
Funny, isn't it?
See, this is all kind of baffling because on the one hand, you've got an official state church that gets some tax funding and has essentially a minister, a secretary of church or whatever, and yet you have a secular state.
It doesn't mean that they're preachers.
No, I understand.
Yeah, we know.
And yet, in addition, but despite that, you have a secular state where you have freedom of religion, and this state church doesn't wield any power.
But it's because
I think one of those isn't quite accurate.
Yeah, but it's because we descended from the previous rule was a monarchy, and the servants to the kings were ministers, because the king was empowered by God.
Right. So it's more.
So the ministers, the name of the ministers is still just preserved.
Right. It's a ceremonial tradition thing.
Yeah, tradition. But it's funny in a way that we have still got.
Yeah, it is. It seems like there's a whole lot of just internal contradictions within the system.
Yeah. The big thing is, though, as a potential solution, I still prefer a clear and properly enforced church-state separation. I mean,
yeah, one where,
you know, even if I found out it was, for example, it would be an effective way to eliminate belief would be to simply make it illegal for anybody to speak out about beliefs without providing solid evidence for it. Boom.
Wow.
All of a sudden you're done with TV preachers, etc. That would be effective. I could never possibly support that because that is a violation of some of the core principles that I value. The ability for them to speak about what they believe, no matter how unproven or crazy I might think it is, that freedom extends to everybody, and it should. But anyway, we've got another caller on the line, and
thanks.
And then we talked about church-state separation too. So
yeah, and thanks a lot for all that information. It was interesting.
Yeah, and thanks for your show.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Yeah, informative, and yet I'm still...
It seemed a little bit strange. I think that what he was suggesting was there's just a whole lot of traditional baggage with the way it's been done in the past that they haven't really quite found out a way to be consistent about applying, you know, and drawing that balance between what your rights are as a free citizen of Denmark and how this church gets to be supported by the state. And I thought the strangest part was, okay, you can opt out of paying the church tax, but then there are other areas of the tax code in I guess, finance that the church gets to draw some revenue from the taxes as well. So regardless, the church is still getting some of their money over there. And that would be a thing I'd find very troubling.
We make